So if you guys are interested in Real Housewives of Miami, I do think you should go on the Patreon. I did do a deep dive on Julia Limgovia's whole situation with her baby, which they allude to on season 4 of The Real Housewives of Miami on Peacock right now, soon to be on Bravo. And if you want to know the details about it, you can get that in the Patreon. Actually, if you log into the Patreon from a computer, there's a search feature and you can look up Julia's name and hear the whole story in detail. It's a really interesting, very sad story, but very, intriguing story. So I would definitely say to go check that out if you're into Real Housewives of Miami and you want to know sort of the deeper level of stuff, because these women have it. Okay, so let's get into it. What is this video about? Well, it centers on Alexia. And first, I want to start off by saying that there has been rumors. I don't know if you guys know this, but I used to live in Miami for 7 years. And I lived in the South of Fifth area, which you see a lot of the current Real Housewives of Miami show shot on. And in fact, I don't know if you know this, but my school that my son went to in Miami Beach was Bronwyn from Real Housewives of Orange County, lived in my building before she moved to Orange County. And she was in my PTA. How funny is that? What a small world. And so I thought you guys would find that funny. Now, let me tell you about Alexia. So first of all, let's start with Herman Echevarria. Rest in peace, Herman. Very, very sweet man. It's come out on The Real Housewives of Miami this season that Herman actually had a gay lover, purportedly unbeknownst to Alexia Echevarria, who's like one of my favorite characters actually on the show. I really enjoy her. I don't enjoy most of the women on that show, but I do like her. Well, the rumor on the street is that Alexia actually knew her husband was gay the whole time he was married to her, which is probably why she's not showing that she's that upset on the show. I think she's, doing this I didn't know thing just for a storyline and so that they can like tease it to the fans throughout the season. But yeah, a lot of people that know her think that she did actually, in fact, know that Herman was gay the whole time. And that was kind of okay. That wasn't the intention of their relationship. In fact, the intention of their relationship was that Herman really cared about Alexia as a good friend, wanted to make sure she was safe, especially with her son having a disability. And so, it was kind of an arrangement, let's put it that way. So anyway, I hope that doesn't take away from the show because whether she knew or she didn't, it's an interesting topic of conversation, right? And it really shows how relationships have kind of evolved and marriages aren't always about the traditional things. Sometimes they're just partnerships of people taking care of each other that care about each other, right? But that aside, I was really troubled about Alexia's son, Peter. So I looked into him a little bit. Now I kind of look like the dog that was on Real Housewives of Miami at Julia's birthday party. Okay, so now Alexia has a son, Peter Rosello, and Peter, unfortunately, can't stop getting into trouble. And he's been like in trouble since he was like a younger kid. And in fact, in 2012, he was arrested because he went up on a 60-plus-year-old man who was homeless. And he made this really awful video where he said, I was going to give you $5, but instead he hit him in the nuts. Yeah. And said and then ran away. And for some reason decided he wanted to film it and make fun of this homeless man who's just minding his own business asleep. It was very strange. Anyway, I'll put the video in the description so you guys could watch it if you want. So Pedro Rosello, who's linked to the Cocaine Cowboys, which I'll get into in a minute, is Peter Rosello's dad and Alexia's first husband. And he's also Frankie's dad. Okay, because this is going to really give you some insight into why these kids are, why Peter's having trouble. Anyway, I don't know how many of you guys know that Alexia from Real Housewives of Miami's first husband was part of the Cocaine Cowboy gang, which is a famous gang out of Miami. And so just to give you an idea, they accumulated over $2 billion, trafficking more than 75 tons, I'll say it again, tons of cocaine from Colombia into the United States and Pedro Rosello, who is Peter's father and Alexia's husband, was one of the crew members to the Cocaine Cowboys, which were two childhood friends that like put this operation together. And he used to run the books, handle the cash, and do some of the like transactional stuff for them as, part of the gang. Okay, let me read you something fun from the Cinemaholic. From setting up their drug operation in Los Angeles, California in the mid-1980s, alongside Tabby, to handling large drug loads on his own, Pedro did it all. Pedro's, Peter's dad and Alexia's husband. Thus, by 1991, he was an essential part of Sal and Willie's organization, that's the Cocaine Cowboys, leading him to be indicted in the federal accusation under one of his false names, Louis Mendez. At the time, Pedro was planning to tie the knot with Alexia Echevarria, star of Real Housewives of Miami, but rumors about agents preparing to apprehend him on the Isle led him to postpone the wedding and go into hiding with his partner. You get this filter, right? The snow. Get that? Okay, just making sure. It's late. Okay. So despite his best attempts to avoid the officios, Pedro Rosello was still arrested and charged with drug-related counts a few months later. In an effort to evade a lengthy prison sentence, he agreed to cooperate and gave them Sal's location, which led to Willie as well. Pedro was then let out on bail for a year, during which he and Alexia married and welcomed their son into their lives. Wow, she's got balls. On the night Pedro Jr. was born, there was an attempt on Pedro's life. Jeez. Yet he survived due to the simple fact that he chose to stay at the Palmetto General Hospital overnight. Wow, lucky move. Pedro was ultimately convicted of cocaine trafficking as part of the case and served a few years behind bars. He and Alexia parted ways in 1996. The same year, he testified against Sal and Willie at their trial. Since then, Pedro's life has had its fair share of ups and downs. He was arrested in 2007 for sexual battery on a minor and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Although he was released early, he's a registered sex offender. Moreover, in November of 2017, he was captured at a red light with 2 kilos of cocaine in his vehicle, which he admitted he would sell. Thus, Pedro was again sentenced to a few years behind bars on drug-related charges, and that's where he remains. Today, at age of 56, he's incarcerated at the low-security federal correction institution, Miami, where he's expected to remain until his release date of February 10th, 2022. Yeah. So, now, let me tell you why I bring this up. I'm going to speculate for a minute here. I'm going to say that it was probably really rough on Peter that his dad got incarcerated for almost his whole life. And also, his name originally was Pedro, which means he changed it, or Alexia did, to Peter, probably to kind of distance him from the reputation of his dad, which would probably, because it's kind of scary, the Cocaine Cowboys, really. I mean, it's one thing to watch it on TV, it's another to have it be in your family. So, there is a part of me that, feels bad. I also think that, even if Pedro came out to try to do right by his son Peter and Frankie and Alexia, he wasn't going to have much of a chance because you just can't restart after a drug event. Well, you can't get a job and no one will, so you're basically stuck going back into the drug business again because you can't provide for yourself in any other way, really, because no one's going to hire you. It just isn't happening. And, if you only know a bad way of life and no one's going to give you a chance, then you go back to that bad way of life. It's just that, and that's why there's so many repeat offenders, because our system is designed to have your background follow you no matter where you go and basically kills you for the rest of your life. They call it civil death. So, yeah. But unfortunately, when you kill the parent, you often kill the child. And what do I mean by that? Well, you end up hurting the kid who's been impacted by the parent. They can't restart. And or the other parent, like Alexia, is left totally alone to pick up the pieces. So nothing new there. But I think it's important to call out that Peter's had a tough go, the kid. And recently he's gotten in trouble again. So I'm going to give you some. Now, you guys probably saw, and if you haven't, what you will see when you watch The Real Housewives of Miami is that Alexia's new husband, Todd, has a huge fight with Peter, the son. And it's basically comes out that Peter was trying to get her handicapped son, Frankie, stoned. And Frankie obviously has a disability. And when he got obviously impacted by the drugs that he was given, it made him throw up and pass out and have, he was confused because, as I mentioned, he's mentally handicapped. He had a car accident. So he probably doesn't know how to interpret drugs, and maybe it flipped him out or made him sick or whatever it was. But anyway, the older brother was doing his best to connect with Frankie, his brother, but he was having a difficult time dealing with, the change in his brother from being normal to being handicapped. And Alexia obviously has really struggled also because her son at one point was totally normal. And then after the car accident has become, dependent. And she's protective over him. And he's the sweetest kid on the show, this kid, Frankie. So cute, so sweet. And, it's a lot. It's a lot. And from the way Peter talks about it, he was trying to help his mom as he was getting, growing up, take care of Frankie. And it really, impacted him. So all of this stuff is really tough. But Todd, her new husband, basically is really hardcore. And he's like, look, like the kid automatically, Peter says, I'll beat you up. And the boyfriend, Todd, says, go ahead, let's go. And he comes off as being really tough, but obviously he knows that this is what is needed to parent this kid, because he's been through a lot, but he's definitely going down the wrong road. And so Todd brings up, like, take him for basketball, like take him to do something like wholesome. Don't try to party with him. He's not like you. And Alexia doesn't know how to manage Peter. And I think that's because she knows that her son's been through hell. And she probably blames herself a little bit, for bringing him into the situation with his father, because she knew that his dad was, obviously a crew member of the Cocaine Cowboys, right? So I think Alexia struggles with that. And I see that insight when I watch the show. I feel for her, but I want to say something that happened, which isn't okay. And I'm really kind of doing this video in hopes that maybe Peter will change his ways. Peter, just so you guys know, went to Paris, went to school, seemed to do well there. Met a girl there. I guess that didn't work out for him. I think he got married. Didn't work out. But, he's got maybe a temper issue, or maybe he's inherited something from his dad, or maybe it's all the trauma he's been through as a kid. I don't know what it is, but he's obviously got huge potential. He's gorgeous, smart, all this stuff, but he's not making good choices. And so recently, he beat up his girlfriend. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He beat her up. I'm going to read it to you from page 6. So here's what it said. A spokesperson for the Miami-Dade Police Department told us the argument began when the couple, who had been dating for about 3 months, arrived at the Miami apartment where they lived together after a night out. That's a bad sign. Obviously, maybe alcohol and drugs are involved, right? Just saying. Allegedly, I don't know. I'm just guessing. I did live in Miami. And by the way, I'm not shaming that, but that's a recipe for disaster with volatile people, right? Anyway, the unnamed victim told Rosello, 29, she wanted to stay at her mother's place instead, which made Echevarria's son upset, according to a police report. The girlfriend alleged that Rosello had placed his hand on her neck and pushed her backwards, and so she slapped his hand from her neck. The defendant then proceeded to knee the victim in her crotch area, causing her to fall down to the ground. The defendant then kicked the victim once while she was on the ground. The girlfriend tried to escape by running out the front door, but Rosello allegedly grabbed the victim by her arm and pulled her back inside of the apartment, according to police. The report states the woman then tried to flee a second time and started yelling, which drew the attention of a neighbor who was listed as a witness to the incident. The witness told police they saw Rosello pull the victim inside the apartment as she was trying to free herself from his grip. The neighbors brought the girlfriend into their apartment, then called police, according to a report. The young woman appeared distressed and had visible redness on her face and neck and had pain in her crotch area. She was treated at the scene. He was booked at 2 a.m., Alexia's son, and charged with battery misdemeanor. His bond was set to $1,500, and as of publication time, he was still in jail. No wonder Herman, being the sweetheart that he was, took Alexia and her two boys in. By the way, Frankie is the other son from the Cocaine Cowboy guy, okay? So, I mean, this is Peter's legitimate biological, brother. So, it's a lot. It's a lot. I know that the Todd guy must be really frustrated with Alexia's children, and he's trying to manage the situation, but it's really challenging for him because these kids have issues, obviously, from all these things that have happened. So I really feel for this new guy, Todd, in Alexia's life. I'm glad for her. I hope he can help them. I don't disagree with what came out in the Miami show that they need counseling and stuff. I think he's right. I guess the thing I wanted to say about this is that, this kid is heading down a really bad trajectory and he has so much potential. It's just, I really hope that Alexia can, stop this, from getting worse. Tell you is the reason I'm not sitting here bashing him for beating this girl up, because obviously it's disgusting, okay, and he needs to do something about it, because if it happens again, then the next video is like not going to be this generous. But I think what I wanted to say was that I feel for these kids. I feel for the trauma that they've obviously been through to a certain degree and they haven't addressed. And I hope that they address it before it's too late. I feel like Peter has potential. He could fix this. He could become a good person that doesn't hit and fight and beat up women because he can't, deal with his emotions or articulate what he really wants to say. And I just wanted to say that I hope I hope there's a big change there. And obviously drugs, when someone has issues, right? Drugs are ways to self-medicate and they magnify them, right? So if you're an angry person and you abuse alcohol or drugs, you become violent sometimes, or you become angry, or some people have chemical issues. They become a totally different person. They're not even present anymore. Believe me, I've had a few boyfriends that wow, they had more than a certain amount of alcohol. They were like somebody else. It's a real thing. So I really hope that maybe he gets sober. I don't know what the answer is. Obviously, I'm not there, but I'm wishing them a solution. I guess that's what I wanted to say in this video. I hope you enjoyed this video, you guys. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. Let me know what you think. And I feel so bad for this girl who just got beaten up by him. What can I say? Now I'm going to play you what Alexia said to Andy Cohen on Watch What Happens Live really, really recently.
And earlier this month, we all read that Peter was arrested on a domestic violence charge. How are you dealing with this?
We don't need the cop music in the background.
I really can't talk about that.
Yep.
So I'm not going to, but, he does have legal representation. And, at this point, we're denying the allegations. So, that's all I can say at this point. But, as a mother, obviously, you can, feel my pain.
Do you feel Todd now has a better understanding of what you and Peter went through with Frankie prior to him joining the family?
Absolutely.
Good.
I feel like, Todd's been in our family for 5 years already. And until you're like in it and you see, what we go through on a day-to-day basis, and see that, Peter is such a good loving brother to his brother. And I know who my son is, and only like that can really relate to something like that. It's like your whole family falls apart.
Do you, you and Todd recently got married in St. Bart's
in
December. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's nice. He seems like he's got a lot of dough. He's in real estate development.
They weren't. It was just something, Todd and I just wanted to have this moment between him and us.
Yeah.
So we wanted no interruptions. We just wanted that. So it was beautiful.
Where do things stand between Peter and Todd today?
Great. They're in a great place today. They're closer than ever. I feel like sometimes you got to get uncomfortable in order to see results.
Yeah.
So we got uncomfortable, we got together as a family and, at the end we moved forward. We're still working on what we need to work on and they're good. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm wrecked. Okay. I hope you guys liked this video. It's super late. I'm writing a show. I'm doing a show with Crazy Days and Nights NT next week, and it's a doozy. It's on, lots of things. But Diana Jenkins, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Season 12. A lot to unpack there. So I'm going to be writing the show most of tomorrow, and I want to sled because we had a blizzard, and I'm excited to sled. So I stayed up late for this one. I hope it makes sense. I wasn't probably as organized as I normally am. Anyway, you guys, thanks so much. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification button, and have a great night.